Haley, welcome to the show. What role does pressure have as a performance enhancer?
Let's get right into it, Elon, right? I think I think it's what gives people an edge because, my background is sports, so that's primarily where I think and then I apply it to life. But in sports, you can be a great athlete, but you may not be a great competitor. And what turns a great athlete into a great competitor is the ability to embrace pressure, to do it when it matters most. So if I think about that and then apply it to whatever you're doing in life, to be able to do it well when the heat is on, when it matters most, which means embracing pressure. I mean, that's everything. Pressure, when we can do something well under pressure, we can really realize what we're made of and reach our full potential.
I love that so much. That's a great answer. And I would even say I feel like I resonate with that so much. So I played soccer for 13 years. I played it from when I was 5 to like 18. And I remember, so you were talking on a podcast and you said something that I've never heard anybody say before, but it like blew my mind because I'd always get super nervous before games. I'd always be like, I feel like I wouldn't perform good. Like during practice, I'd be having a good time and I'd be very good. But then during the game, everything just kind of shut down. And I remember you were mentioning this story that you had a client and he told you, well, you figured out the fact that he was like, intimidated by the opponents for whatever reason. And I felt like I was like, oh my God, maybe that's a problem I had for 13 years. I wish I would have heard that earlier. Could you talk about that? Like, is that something that happens commonly?
All the time. Absolutely, all the time. So in competition or when the pressure is on, we start having all these what ifs. So when things are going well and when the results don't really matter and you're doing it for growth and for learning and for fun, you get to focus on yourself and your growth and your learning and the fun. And then when the results do matter, when you actually want to achieve something and promote yourself to something, that's when all those what if I fail? What if I fall? What if I embarrass myself? What if someone else is better than me? So this particular athlete had that what if. He was amazing in practice, but he couldn't compete to his best because he had that what if. What if they beat me? What are they going to do to be better than me? So we really had to look at that mental block. That's a mental block. And then we had to embrace it and figure out a story that was going to allow us to embrace it. And what I did was I asked him a would you rather question, which is something I do with a lot of people that I work with. And for him, it was would you rather go to a competition and you're guaranteed to win because everyone else is weaker than you? Or would you rather go to a competition where you have the ability to win? I mean, he was that good. I mean, he can win, but you're going to have to compete against people at your level of ability. So it's going to be much harder to win. You can do it. It's just going to be harder. And he chose, the people at his ability because then he knows he earned it. If he just wins because he's competing against people much weaker than him, it's a given. It's not really it's not major achievement. So once he decided that he would rather compete with people his level, we were then able to shift his focus from what are they going to do to beat me to thank you, opponents, for showing up today because you're the opponents that I want to compete against. I choose you. And now I'm going to use you to motivate me and focus on me and kick your butt.
That's amazing. I love that. And I feel like also like I know this guy and he was like he was ranked really good in soccer. He was super good at soccer and he was telling me how he was like all like this wasn't all state but all like his county, right? And then I asked him like, okay, like what county is it? And he told me it was this county that was like nobody's ever heard of this place, right? And so I was talking to him and he was like, yeah, like he was a big shot. He was so good. He scored 3 goals a game. But then the more he talked to him, you realize like the people he was playing against were like they weren't good, right? And nothing against them, but I'm just saying that it kind of boosted up his ego when he was facing competition that was super low. But I feel like for me, I didn't get any accolades like that, but I constantly went up against people that were very good. You know, like the school I went to, the club I played for, we always played good players in soccer. So it was like we're going up against good people and beating them always felt so good. So it's like you have one person that you kind of mentioned in your would you rather. Like, would you rather be the person that plays against the easiest competition? We have that one guy that I know whose ego is like above the roof. And then there's another person who is, you know, someone like me and they played tough games and they lost a lot, but they won some. I feel like that's where you get a lot of lessons. You learn a lot more things when you challenge yourself. I wanted to ask, as far as like hitting your bar for potential goes in sports and honestly life in general, what how big of a role does mindset play in it?
I mean, I think it's everything. I honestly do. I think the mind allows your body to do what you've been training it to do. So, why is it that people with the same nutrition, the same equipment, the same technical ability, the same age, the same conditioning, what separates them? And it's mindset. Now, you can develop mindset with experience, and many of us do, but we also don't have to wait to gain the experience. We can start learning the skills, learning from other people, and developing it just like any skill. And a lot of people wait. It's almost like the final piece of the puzzle, the mindset. They've got everything else down. And then if things aren't going right, then they wonder why. And then they go seek a performance and a performance psychology coach like myself. But I actually think it's the first, because when you can get the mindset down, which is really about quieting this down, like thinking less, more
Yes.
strategically. That's what I like to do. But our thoughts influence our emotions, which alter our biology, which then enhances our performance or impacts our performance. So if we can get our head straight, we then take better control of our emotions. We then put our bodies in the right position to go and perform your best.
How can people learn, going back to what you said, to silence their what ifs?
Yeah. Well, you can do what I did. You actually do some reframing and finding new stories. That's what reframing is. Every thought that we have, it's like you're planting a seed in your brain. That seed is a thought. And the more we repeat that thought, it will grow and become our habitual thought, a dominant thought. Well, those thoughts can help us, but they also can hurt us. And we want to quiet the unhelpful thoughts down. We want to quiet this down, but you can't just say, don't think of the purple elephant. Everybody listening or watching just thought of the purple elephant. So we can't say don't, and we can't tell it to go away. So what we need to do is come up with something else that's strategic, that's helpful, and then that one thought, as we repeat it with frequency and repetition, it grows. And then all the other overthinking, doubting thoughts, because we're focused on this new thought, all the other ones will subside, atrophy, use it or lose it. And so, how do we think less? We choose something that's going to truly help us. And then all the overthinking goes away, because now we have something really specific. But we got to do the work. We actually have to make this new productive thought grow.
So what would be an example of that productive thought?
Well, let's just take that athlete that I was talking about. So he went from, oh no, what are they going to do to beat me? Which then spiraled into, did I sleep well this last night? Which then spiraled into, oh, goodness, what are the refs going to think of me? Do I like the refs? Because he was in a sport where there were obviously judges. Um, so all of this irrelevant, unnecessary overthinking. And we then honed in on the thank you, opponents, for showing up. Thank you, opponents, for showing up. In addition to that is, I'm going to use you to motivate me to focus on my game. And then with that, it was like you're starting out with thank you for showing up, and you're narrowing it down to the one thing that he could control, that he knew that if he focused on, he would perform really well. And that was the word patience. And so thank you for showing up allowed him to tune everything else out. And then he zoned into patience, patience, patience. And that self talk and that rehearsal and that visualization on Thank you for showing up, and patience. That was it. Those two things. That allowed him to think less, more strategically. And this is an athlete, I tell it all the time. This is an athlete that was ready to quit, and in 3 months became a junior world champion, made the U.S. national team, and then the next year was a 2-time national champion.
That is so inspiring. And I feel like that gives a lot of hope to people out there that also might be, kind of in the depths of the trenches right now, whether they're playing sports or I don't know, maybe in their life as well. Because I think, I totally agree with you that I've had enough episodes that I understand how important mindset is. It's kind of like everything. I feel like it's the base of who you are, how you act in certain situations. I heard you talk on the Way of the Champions podcast about winning and losing, and you said something that was like stopped me dead in my tracks. Seriously, I thought this was so interesting. So you're talking about winning and losing, and you said the thing that people get wrong is everybody says losing, like people take it as a like experience or just a lesson learned, but you said no, like losing is a choice.
I think it's great. I mean, yes, it's true. Let's learn from our failures. Let's learn from our losses. Um, but I gotta be honest with you, in the moment, it sucks. I mean, I don't know that while I'm going through it, I'm in the emotional state or even the mental state to say, okay, this is good for me somehow. Like, I believe after the fact, once I have vented the emotions, once I have grieved the loss, once I have worked through all that, then I can have the mindset to say, okay, what can I learn so that it never happens again? Or forget about never happening again, that I increase the probability that, I'll reduce the same mistake. I'll reduce the opportunity to make the same mistake. But in the moment, can we just acknowledge the fact that I failed? And it's okay. It's okay because failure happens. Phew. Take a load off, everyone. Happens. And so let me just be upset about it for a moment. Again, people come to my consulting practice not because they're happy, typically because they're sad, and they want me to help them not be frustrated. They want me to help them move forward. And one of the best ways that I help people move forward is to take a moment and be upset. Be upset. It means you care. It means you cared, and you do care. It means you actually have confidence because you thought you could do better. So there is a little bit of confidence somewhere there. You had expectations. So if you weren't sad, then I'd wonder why you would be exerting all this effort towards this activity in the first place. So be sad and then move forward. And in that process of being sad and then moving forward, you'll be able to learn from the failure then.
You mentioned that at the moment losing sucks, and you said that we shouldn't try to escape from the feeling. Like we can't pretend like you lose and you think to yourself instantly that okay, this is just another lesson because at the time it really does suck. And you also talking about the fact that it's okay to be sad when you lose, but just be sad for the moment and then after that you can look at it in retrospect and then that's when you take away the lessons from it. And that reminded me of something. So I wouldn't necessarily say between winning or losing, but I've been doing MMA for the past like 2 years, and I had a competition last November, I believe it was, and my coach kept telling me, he was like, go out there, it's gonna be fun, have a good time, and then, after everything, adrenaline dump, I was super tired, I got out of the cage, and then my coach told me, he was like, "See, that was fun, right?" And I looked at him and I was like, not in the state of mind to be like, oh, that was fun. I had a good time. I was just like super tired, exhausted. And I looked at him and I was like, I cannot believe you just said that to me. I didn't say anything back to him, but then, I kind of got my space. And then over time, I realized, yes, that was fun. But in the moment, it's like, it's such an intense feeling. You have your adrenaline dump. And it's like, it's interesting what you said because I've never heard anybody talk about the fact that you're just not ready to accept the fact that this is going to be a lesson in the future while you're there because you're so emotional about it. It just happened and there was so much leading up to it, if that makes sense.
Yes. So, to go to your experience MMA, your coach saying wasn't that so much fun. Now I don't know if he was trying to make you laugh too because he saw the fight. I mean, he saw like the commitment and the pursuit. So he was maybe making light of an intense situation that you were in. But it is true. Often after the fact, when we reflect, we learn that, it was more fun than actually in the moment, which is then the motivation to do it again and again and again. And I'll just jump on yours and then I'll go back to the losing piece. I remember I used to go to overnight camp. I went to overnight camp for 13 years as a kid. And we would go on these canoe trips for, 5 to 7 days, which is a hustle, which is like, and I was always the stronger girl. So I had like this, they called it the Wanigan. I carried this big box with all the food with this like leather band on my forehead. And you're just walking and then you're canoeing and then you're portaging, which is walking and then canoeing. And in the moment, there are really sucky moments. But afterwards, you reflect on everything, the stress of it all and the challenge of it all and the unity of being with your friends and going through tough times and getting bitten by 1,000 mosquitoes and then getting them and then so afterwards you're like, wow, that was enjoyable when you put it all together. But in the moment, there are some really sucky pieces. And so, same thing maybe for your experience. There may have been some really difficult, challenging times, but then afterwards, once you reflect and digest it, packaging it up, it's more fun. Losing sucks. And I hope it sucks for people who lose, and I'll tell you why. Uh, for people who, if it doesn't feel bad, then I wonder how much you were really motivated in the first place. I wonder how much you really believed in yourself in the first place. I wonder how committed you were in the first place. For me, the things that I don't really love, that I believe in, that I'm super motivated, that I committed to, and I go out there and I don't do a great job, I'm not that sad. But for the things that I do really, really want and do believe and have expectations, and I don't get it, I fail, I'm really sad. And that's okay. And then let myself go through the sadness. Now, hopefully, I learn to do it as, if it's sports, you want to become a good sports person, right? You don't want to lose horribly. You want to lose well. And we teach that. And hopefully I'll be able to stay composed and then find my own time to really let it out. But you have to really let it out. And then after you've let it out, now I can reflect and find the lessons. Find the things that I don't have to repeat because I just grew, growth mindset. I just learned something and I'm going to do my damnedest not to do it again. So yeah, losing sucks. Failure it's awful. Let us feel that. Now we have to do it in a, for lack of a better term, diplomatic way. We have to be a good person about it. And then afterwards, find your opportunity to let it out. And then after that, find your opportunity to learn.
Yeah, I love that so much, and I totally relate with what you said about, I guess, what we're both talking about, find the lessons after the fact, and I think it is so much easier when you're less emotional about it. Like for me, after my fight, so I did end up losing, but I realized like the training that I had with my teammates, how hard it was, it all made it so much more of an enjoyable experience. It's like, in my opinion, I think the hardest things are worth it the most. And just because you fell short of it doesn't mean that it's something that you have to necessarily like dread about. A loss might be a loss for the short term, right? Because you were so emotional about it, you trained so hard, but then over the next couple of years, you look back on it and you're like, wow, you know what? That was pretty cool.
And Elon, I loved your words, and they're really important words. That was worth it. And at the end of the day, win or lose, at the end of the day, if you can look at yourself in the mirror or to a confidant and say, win or lose, remember, that was worth it, then you know you did it for a good, like you're in the right place. So then let's go again with bringing with us all the lessons that we continue to learn from.
Sure. What would you say in your experience is a good, like, I wouldn't say threshold, but comparison between, doubt? Like you said, you don't want to have doubt going into something, or you want to believe in yourself because then if you lose and you're not emotional about it, you're saying, was it necessarily worth it? So, what is it like with doubting yourself, but also like not hyping yourself up too much? Like, for example, in fighting, I think there's a lot of personalities, like people, I don't know, in the UFC boxing that they talk a lot, but they're very confident in themselves and they're like, they know no matter what they're going to win. They make that decision exactly like you talked about, right? They make the decision like, I'm not losing this. So, what's like, I guess, in comparison between somebody who's doubting themselves, and saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to work very hard, but I'm not sure if I can win this. Does that like necessarily mean they're going to lose?
No. So, and I want to be clear too. I think doubt is human nature too. I think having doubt to some level can be healthy, but when we go in with no confidence at all, that's like when doubt is just ruling us. That's the problem. So some doubt I think is normal. Some doubt is kind of common too because it is self-awareness and for some people it's almost like it kind of heightens your concentration. If you can, okay, I don't know if I'm going to win this. I don't know. I could lose. What if they slept better? What if they just simply are better? Doubt, those are common. And so we want to, in the moment, be able to, and this is what I like to put in everyone's mental toolbox. I like to have 3 specific strengths that you've already identified, that you already know you have. So then, in those moments of doubt, which are normal, very common, in those moments of doubt, you can quickly pick at your strengths and you've got them already prepared, already planned. So for me, let me say I'm doing a podcast and I'm like, oh, am I going to be able to answer every question you ask? And am I going to be able to not stumble over my words? And am I be able to come up with a story, right away? And then if I have those doubts, which I do, immediately I have my 3 strengths. I know that I am a bright individual. So I'm just going to bring my brightness. I'm going to zone in on you. That's another one of my strengths. Get out of my own head and zone in on you. What is Elon asking of me? What story is he sharing? I'm going to grab a hold of that. So even though I may have some doubts, I'm balancing it out with my specific strengths. Here's the thing. Do you want to become too confident? No, because here's one of the greatest lessons I've had to learn, and one of the greatest lessons I believe that I can share with everyone that I work with. Winning is not loyal to anyone.
Mm.
Best of the best do not win all the time. Winning is not loyal to anyone. So if you think that you are guaranteed the win, you will one day be sorely mistaken. You have to pursue, you have to persist. And a little bit of that doubt, balanced with some real confidence based on real strengths, that allows you to persist and pursue and commit and stay focused on the task at hand and not let up at all because you were too confident or you thought it was going to be a given. In addition to that, I will say that I think that the people who have already won, whatever winning means to them, I think it's actually harder to stay on top than it is to climb your way to the top. And so that is another reason why winning isn't loyal to anyone because it's a hard job to stay the winner. It really is. So whether you use the word arrogant or just ego, I like how you framed it because I don't love the words arrogant and ego because I think there's a fine line. Just too much confidence without any doubt at all can be dangerous as well.
Sure. I love that so much. Winning is not loyal to anyone. I've never heard that. I admire that. That's beautiful. Are there any misconceptions about pressure that you know of in your time talking about it?
I think one misconception is that it's bad. My whole business is to embrace pressure as a performance enhancer. Pressure, now, there's a big difference between anxiety, which some common emotions are fear, worry, frustration, anger. So pressure that is perceived or creates those emotions can be dangerous. Now, again, fear, anger, worry, frustration on the onset for some people can actually be motivating. It ignites you. It lights that match. You tell me I can't, I'll show you I can, right? So that some of that can be igniting. But if the pressure is felt as anxiety for too long, it's very draining of energy. It's the quickest way to burn out. That's when doubts start to rule, right? They're not just balanced with confidence. They actually start to rule over us. So that pressure is not something that's necessarily healthy in the long term. A little bit of it can wake us up. But pressure from expectations that we have on ourselves, well, doesn't that mean you believe in yourself if you think you can do something? So if someone comes to me and say, I have these high expectations, I was just speaking with a female athlete, a soccer player earlier today, and she wants to go pro, and that's pressure. Well, good. It means you believe in your ability to go pro. Now, it's her expectation. It's no one else's, right? Like she started it. She wants it. So people want it for her. It's not imposed onto her. She did it herself. That means you believe in yourself. That pressure is good. So the fact that pressure is bad, I don't believe that because that type of pressure is good. If someone bets on you, people bet on us all the time. People give us promotions at work. People choose us to lead a project. People choose me to be their performance psychology expert. I mean, that's pressure, but it means they believe in me. It means they trust me. So doesn't that mean I'm doing a good job? So isn't that confirmation that I'm doing a good job, that pressure in that form? And then also, I believe that pressure is earned in the same sense. So if you're feeling pressure for the right reasons, you've had success, you have expectations because you believe in your ability, you love what you do, so you want to make something of it, welcome to the club that you want to be a part of. How cool is that? And now pressure is energy. Now, anxiety can, if again, long term, that anxious pressure long term can make you freeze up. But the pressure that we can embrace, that's energy, really good energy to propel us forward. So that we'll now even perform better because of that pressure than we would have without it.
I remember for my fight, actually, I had people bet on me, like actually bet on me. Some people lost a lot of money betting on me. But no,
And that's okay. I mean,
yeah,
again, you know, not fun. And that's okay. You remember that they bet on you because they believed in you, and now you're going to recover and show it next time.
yeah. I actually think these are strangers, so I don't think they knew anything about me. But no, I totally understand your point.
Well, they certainly saw something in you.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. So you mentioned for anxiety versus pressure, you said anxiety, as you described it, is like, fear, worry. You described like actual characteristics and traits. What are some characteristics or traits you can describe about like pressure? Because I feel like when you said the distinction between the two, it was easy for me to be able to tell which one like is anxiety for me. But when you were talking more about pressure, it was a little bit harder because you were giving more concrete examples, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, sure. Um, a great one, let's use the word arousal. So, and I'm taking this not from my personal work, from Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who's the founder of Flow State. He has this great chart and he has anxiety and arousal right beside each other. And so I look at, like we just said, anxiety is fear, anger, frustration, worry, those would be examples. And I look at as arousal as challenge. So fear makes us retreat, challenge makes us defeat. So that could be a slight difference in the two. A great example would be like nerves, like butterflies in your stomach. Anxiety would be butterflies. I'll just give a symbolic imagery. Butterflies swarming around all over your stomach, totally not within your control. They're taken over, chaos, doesn't feel good. Or arousal, those butterflies being energy, you taking control of them, putting them in an inverted V like birds fly above, because that's efficient, that's effective, that's energy helping you. So the butterflies swarming around out of control, anxiety. The butterflies getting turn in an inverted V, energy, good nervous energy that's going to help you to perform. Passion, excitement, competence. That's all part of feeling, aroused. That both, and there's obviously mental and emotional and physical arousal. So does that help you decipher between the two?
Yes, totally, totally.
And I believe, how do we move from one to the other? Because that's a great question that I'll just put out there. Um, that confidence piece. So if we can bring back our strengths, if we can, in the moment, what can I do? What can I have control over? And what do I believe I can be effective in? If we can bring that back to our thinking, that may actually be the ticket to move away from anxiety to arousal.
That's very interesting. Okay, so you're saying if you're somebody who might be on the more like anxiety side, remembering your confidence, remembering kind of like the proof of your life kind of can shift you towards the other side. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
because
I
it
know,
just gives you a little bit more sense of control. Hmm.
yeah, totally. I even know flow is like something that where it's like challenging but not too challenging where you don't understand it. So it's like exactly what you said. I totally resonate with it. It's something that like you understand, but it's challenging in a way that you've never done before, if you will.
So in Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I'm hoping I said that correctly, say that 10 times fast, but in his chart, it goes anxiety, arousal, flow. And so, and basically the chart is, we're getting into it, is on one axis, it's the demands, the challenge. And then you have your capability. It looks like this, your capability. And flow state is when the demands meet your capability right on. But it's your highest level of performance. So it is challenging, but it's your goals equally match your skill set. Arousal is when the challenge is slightly above your skill set. And then anxiety is when your challenge is well above your skill set.
Is that something that you've noticed that very good athletes can get into the flow state effortlessly?
Well, it's a very interesting way how you phrase that question, because flow state is characterized as it's like effortless. It's characterized as
I guess that makes sense. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, sure.
the
So
experience is like it's effortless, but I don't think it's effortless to get into flow. There takes preparation. There takes, it's almost like you have this pre-performance routine that's going to increase your shot at getting into that flow where things seem effortless, and time either speeds up for some, time slows down for others. Every piece of feedback is going in your favor. This is just like the sweetest spot.
totally, totally. Yeah, that makes sense. For people that might be more like they're listening to this, but they've never thought about pressure as being a performance enhancer, like you say, are there like steps that they can take to maybe notice, I guess, patterns in their life or times where they might have pressure, they just don't realize it?
Sure. So a good question, in to just jump on exactly what you said, is think about a moment in your life where something happened, and I call it the emotional and mental fork in the road. Something happened, and you were either going to feel anger, frustration, worry, fear, anxiety, and then what story you would tell yourself in order to feel that way. And I can give you an example of myself. Actually, it's a similar example to to people betting on you. Or on the other situation, on the other side of the road, you feel passion and challenged and competent and excited. And what story would provide those emotions? So when I was 12 years old, I was a ski racer, and my coach bet on me to win a junior world championship. But it was a pretty big race for me. And right before I was about to go, he told me that he bet on me to win. And so in that moment, that's a situation. And it was either going to be bad pressure, like anxiety. How could he bet on me? What if he's wrong? What if I make a mistake? I'm not good enough. How many people am I going to let down? So that's not exactly the pressure that I want. Or on the other side, challenge, passionate, confident, excited. If my coach is betting on me, that must mean he believes in me. If he believes in me, that must mean I'm good. So two different stories create two different types of emotions. And the pressure that elicited the If he bets on me, that must mean he believes in me. Challenge, competent, passion, alignment. That's the pressure, that's performance enhancer. So, back to the lessons, you can go back into your life and you can think of a moment where you had these expectations. It was a pressure producing environment situation, and you either were going to think a negative story that created anxiety, or you're going to think a helpful story that created the passion and the challenge and the competence. And that right there is the performance enhancer. So then you bring it back to your current state. Whenever someone bets on you, or whenever you have expectations, whenever someone pushes you, or when you push yourself, you've got two options. You can either go the anxiety route, or you can go the performance enhancing route and find the challenge in the pressure.
That's so interesting because it feels like such a small, like a 1 degree turn, right? Like you can put in so much work, but then if your coach tells you all this, like, or not all this, it says you sentence, he says, I'm betting on you. That's when you decide, you make the decision. Like you said, the fork in the road. That makes a lot of sense. Is that something you find often where like the difference between it being anxiety producing or not anxiety producing, but the pressure being good pressure or bad pressure is just a small, like just mindset shift, if you will?
That's how it starts. Absolutely. So I think that's like the trigger. Yeah, it definitely starts. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes people have unnecessary pressure on themselves. So the first thing that I like to teach is when you feel pressure, let's ask yourself, how did I earn this pressure? It's a really good question. How did I earn this pressure? And if you can find ways of to which you earned it, probably can help you then use it as a performance enhancer, because now how did you earn it is going to bring up strengths, bring up confidence, help you focus in on your game. But if you can't find any reasons for why you earned it, you might not have you might not have earned it. It may be unnecessary pressure that you just need to let go. And so then we teach people how to let go. And that's when it is. Just go have fun. Go and learn something. Go and laugh at yourself while you're making mistakes, because you haven't earned the right to get upset with yourself yet. You haven't done enough reps to be upset with yourself. What is the saying? Don't be upset at the results you don't get by the work you didn't do. Right?
Mm.
So, let's really take this pressure thing and throw it away, because it is unwarranted and it's not helpful. On the other hand, though, if you really earned it, that starts a story, that starts a conversation that lends to embracing it as performance enhancer. And then there's concentration tools that go with that. There's confidence tools that go with that. But that's truly the trigger. That's a really great question. If I'm feeling this pressure, how did I earn it? And if you can't come up with an answer, you don't need the pressure. Let it go and focus on just learning and having the experience.
Haley, that is so interesting. I've never even thought about that. I totally, totally resonate with what you're talking about because I think a lot of times when I am talking about confidence on this podcast, I mentioned the idea that you can't fake confidence. Like you can puff your chest up and you can walk around and everybody's gonna look at you and be like, wow, that guy is confident. But I think it's all about an internal belief. And if internally you know you didn't do anything to deserve that, you're just puffing your chest out. It's just a facade while other people are like raising your ego. You know deep down that it's not going to get you anywhere. And I think the people that are truly the most confident are the ones that, put in the work, they have the proof within themselves, and they don't need to necessarily like project it onto other people, if you will. However, I understand people will do that, but to your point of what you said about, you have to make the decision of why are you feeling this pressure. For the people that actually put in the work, they'll think to themselves, I feel this pressure because, like, for example, for me, I keep bringing up MMA because this is kind of resonating with me. I felt pressure during my fight because, my family was there. And the only reason the pressure was there was because they knew how hard I was working towards it. How every time my mom would call me, I'd be like, hey, I can't talk. I have training. So it was like all these things being built up. And I feel like it would have been so nice to know all of this, back when I was doing this. But I guess now for the future, I'm equipped with it. And even anybody listening, I think that's absolutely amazing. And I know that we've been talking a lot about the whole mindset side of pressure and how it can be good, but how about factors like maybe environment or physical capabilities or emotional? Like, how do those play into pressure?
The environment, there are certain things that we can control and there are certain things that we cannot control. So we may not always be able to control our situation, which is our environment. But you get to decide the stimuli that you're going to focus on and the stimuli that you're not. You get to choose in any given environment what's relevant and what's irrelevant in the moment. And it's a really good skill set to develop, having the discernment. And so it could be a pressure producing. So maybe you show up and, you were showing up to a performance and you didn't realize certain people are going to be there, but now they're there and eyes are on you and you're feeling pressure. Now, we can gain experience, but we could also learn these skills so that we can do it so that we can do it right away. When you show up, you get to press mute on anything you don't want to focus on, and you can tune in to what you want to focus on. And that's a skill set. So it's interesting. And in performance psychology, a lot of people talk about confidence and motivation. Very important stuff. Confidence is very important. But I believe in order for us to actually follow through on our confidence and our motivation is actually attentional control. So even if the environment is pressure producing, I can press mute on anything that I don't want to focus on, which might be the pressure stuff if I don't want to embrace that pressure because I don't think I'm warranted. Or I can use it to fuel me. Like if your family's there and you want to use it for fuel, bring on that pressure, embrace it, use it for fuel. But there are other people who actually that hurts them. So you press mute on it, but the only way you can press mute is by tuning into something else. And you have to know what that something else is going to be. You have to know what that relevant cues are going to be. So attentional control allows you to then, I guess, control the environment and figure out what level of pressure you're going to embrace. So that's with the environment piece. The emotional piece, we have more control of our emotions than we give ourselves credit. And I think that is one of the greatest lessons that we can all learn. We are emotional creatures, absolutely, and emotions can trump logic more of the time if we let them. But we are in control, even though we may not 100% be able to control our emotions immediately. We do control how long we live in any particular emotional state. That's why you see top performers listening to music. That's why you see top performers, moving their lips. And if you can't hear what they're saying, they're rehearsing affirmations, mantras to themselves. That's why they're really, really focused on making sure that they only surround themselves with people that help them, not hurt them. It is doing all of these things to ground them to the best of their ability in an emotional state that allows them to either embrace the pressure or withstand the pressure that they don't want. So again, we are in control of our environment, what we focus on, even though we may not be in control of the actual environment. We get to choose what we look at. We get to choose what we hear. We can tune things out. We can let things come and go. And emotions, we get to move around using these little tools like music, like moving our bodies, like deep breathing. Those are all tools to help you shift from one emotion that's not helping to another emotion that is helping.
Haley, do you
And I forgot
believe
the third
that?
one.
Oh,
And no, sorry, I forgot the third one. Environment, emotions, and something else.
maybe it'll come back. Maybe it'll come back. I wanted to ask, do you think that pressure is a privilege?
Yeah. Like I said, welcome to the club. But 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 pressure that's warranted. Like I think I'll be honest, I think a lot of us put too much pressure on ourselves and we didn't earn it yet. And now we're just hurting ourselves. We're getting in the way of our own dreams. But the pressure that is earned, yeah, we've made it, and that's a privilege. But I don't want people just to come up with pressure because it's a privilege. Like we got you got to earn that privilege.
Yeah, and I also think I feel like a lot of people who've done very good for themselves in their life, they had like pressure and it propelled them so much. Like sometimes it felt like they didn't have a second choice, so they had to do the thing and they ended up like I was always very interested with how people turned out the way that they did. And when I was looking at, maybe entrepreneurs or maybe some athletes, some of them just have insane stories and very inspirational stories as well. And it made me realize like one, yes, pressure. I wouldn't say pressure is a privilege. Like, if you're born into something and it's very unfortunate, it's not like a good thing. It's not, you wouldn't want that. But I'm saying if you are in that situation and you have to push yourself, pressure could be the little booster that you needed, and some people don't realize that. So I think it's amazing that there's people like you, Haley, because you open up people's minds to this.
Yeah, but Elon, what you just said is so true. And, you mentioned Way of the Champions before, a podcast where you heard me at, and another podcast that I've not been on, Impact Theory with Tom Bilyeu. I love how he talks about lions chasing us. And it's true. It's like sometimes we don't realize our true potential because we don't have a lion chasing us. And sometimes we
Yes,
need a lion. Sometimes we need that push. So I agree with you. And actually maybe I would take that back. Maybe we always need a push. I guess what I'm saying with regards to the pressure is we need the right amount of push. And sometimes we push ourselves too much. Sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves when we haven't earned that privilege yet. So I 100% agree with you. We all can improve and grow because pressure is a challenge, right? That's how we learn, that's how we grow. Too much pressure actually makes us freeze. Too much pressure makes us choke.
sure, sure. And are you saying that unwarranted pressure, like for example, somebody trying to push very hard when instead of a lion is chasing them, it's like a little chihuahua that's not going to hurt them?
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. I totally agree. I think a lot of people put false pressure on themselves, something that's not there, and it doesn't do very much because it's like it wasn't the thing that pushed you to begin with. If I say like, "Hey, I need to do this thing because I don't know of my friend or something," I told my friend I was going to do it, but then I realized I'm like, yeah, but I've told them a lot of things. Like I don't have to do this. You know what I mean? As opposed to like something that's really going to change your life, that's going to push you to do the thing. That's very cool. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be a good match. It really does. It's gotta be a good match. But yeah, we all need that little push, pressure. You just gotta have it the right amount.
Would you say in your experience that there's a limit to how much pressure is beneficial?
I guess the pressure that keeps you, it's a great question. We've been talking a lot about the emotions of anxiety, fear, anger, frustration. I believe that for many people, those emotions are good at first because I said they're an igniter, right? They're a booster. But if the pressure we're experiencing keeps us in those emotional states for too long, that's when we'll hit burnout. That's when we'll quit. That's when bad performance happens. That's when bad things happen because then you get deflated and you get sad and you get depressed. And bad things can come from that as well. So the pressure that keeps you in a prolonged state of that anxiety, I don't know how that can be healthy.
Sure. I think that's awesome that you brought this up because it made me think the whole idea of the igniter. Like there's some motivation that's only good in the micro. Like you don't want it for an extremely long period of time. Something that I think about is maybe like somebody makes an offhand comment. Like, for example, I know when I was starting my podcast and people would they wouldn't make fun of it, but they would say something about it, right? And it was it was just a little bit to keep me going. And it was so funny because I remember thinking in the moments, like my mom even tells me, she's like, she says one of my worst traits is like how I always want to get back at people if they do something to me. So it was so ironic to me that people thinking like if they're gonna say something bad about me is gonna put me down when in reality just motivates me. But it hit a certain point when I realized I'm like, it's only gonna get me so far, And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, to your point. Like they think it's like, oh, this person made fun of me. Now I'm gonna have to work for the next 20 years on this thing, but it's like they don't remember you the next day, and you shouldn't like use that for so long to fuel.
It's actually not gonna do what it does in the moment. It won't have the same impact, hours, weeks, months, years later. It just won't. It'll be draining. So yeah, you want to use those moments wisely, and you do not want it to linger. It cannot be your only source of motivation. You've got to have heart. You've got to bring that heart motivation. That is how we sustain.
And you're saying you're gonna like burn out and like hurt yourself doing this because if you think about it too much, it just kind of consumes you more than motivates you.
It's exhausting. And so burnout is really three things. It's emotional and mental exhaustion. And so and focusing on all the naysayers and focusing on the negative comments and focusing on whatever creates long-term fear, frustration, worry, anxiety, that's an energy drainer. So, and that's one characteristic of burnout. What happens also with burnout is you become depersonalized. And what that means is a project or a community, someone or something that you once felt really connected to, you had heart motivation for, you no longer feel that way. There's a disconnect. So you still fight, you still show up, but it's all about the results, all about the outcome, not about the love at all. Depersonalized. That connection is no longer there for like the purity's sake. And then the other part of burnout is low perceived performance. So you just don't think you're doing a good enough job. You put all those three things together: emotional and mental exhaustion, depersonalization, and low perceived performance. That is a recipe for disaster. And that's what burnout is.
And when you say low perceived, what was that? Low perceived performance?
Yeah, you just
So when
don't
you
think you're doing a good enough job.
I understand. I understand. So even when you're putting in the work, you think to yourself like, well, maybe I'm not doing enough, and then that just leads to you getting burnt. Okay, I understand. Understand. That was just for myself, just a general question for myself. How can people realize the benefits of pressure in the moment? Because like you mentioned earlier, you have the butterflies and it's very intense feeling. How can people learn to instantly think to themselves like a mindset shift, if you will, like, okay, this could be a good thing. It doesn't have to be bad.
I think the greatest question is to ask yourself, how did I earn this pressure? And if you could come up with a good answer, like, and I 100% agree with you, Elon, what you said before about not being able to fake confidence. I agree with you. I'm actually not a big believer in fake it till you make it. I believe in finding something to believe in. I believe in breaking it down as much as you need to break it down in order to find something that you believe in about yourself. And then that is what you grab and that is what you use to grow and build upon. So going back to that pressure thing, how did I earn this? You if you can't figure out how you earned it and now you're just lying to yourself, trying to fake it, that's not gonna help. So that's when it's like, "Okay, Haley, you know what?" I remember my first keynote presentation, on a big stage in front of thousands of people. It's like, uh, I feel pressure, like, to be perfect. Come on, Haley, give yourself a little bit of grace here. Go up there and have the great experience, that allowed me to actually embrace the moment and just instead of being so afraid that I was gonna make mistakes and suck. Um, so in that moment, how did I earn this pressure? Well, you didn't really, because you've never really done this before. So you've gotten to this place, that's awesome. And you've had smaller presentations, that's awesome. And they like you because you're bright, because you look people in the eye, because you're going to share good stories, but you don't need to have the best performance you've ever had. I remember saying to myself that. And some people may roll their eyes, but like, no, like this is like, you should have pressure. Your people are counting on you to do a good job. It doesn't help me do a good job if I put that much pressure on myself. But now, because I've had so many opportunities and I've had so many, keynote presentations and now I have more pressure on myself to do a good job. And I embrace that pressure because I've earned it. And now that actually propels me to do well. Where at my first one, it wouldn't have helped me, it would have hurt me. So ask yourself, how did I earn this? It's a really great question. And if you can't find a real honest answer that you believe in, let it go and just have the experience. Put forth all the effort, but let go of the expectations and let go of the pressure outcome. And if you do have a good reason as to why you earned it, how you earned it, then remember, okay, I've earned it. That's a privilege. I'm here. Welcome to the club. I'm going to make the most of this energy and go out there and highlight my strengths.
Sure. Haley, all right, last question for you. Knowing everything you know now about pressure, a lot of my listeners are more on the younger side. We got like 18 to 35, right? What would you tell people? I guess this can apply for anybody, but what's one piece of advice, one wisdom drop that you can give to my listeners?
Besides that, besides
Yeah,
it.
besides everything you've already said, unless you want
Yeah.
to reiterate, because I totally
No, no,
understand.
no. Here's a good one. And it kind of goes to the pressure thing, and really making, reserving the moments for when you've earned the pressure. Give yourself some grace. Never let yourself off the hook. And I use that for myself every single day. And this is how I interpret this. There are things that happen in life that I cannot control. And I need to be able to give myself some grace. It's not always going to be perfect. Failure does happen. Mistakes do happen. I understand. I'm going to give myself some grace. But if I only give myself some grace, then I'm bound to not get out of bed. Then I'm bound to just make every excuse up, So it can't just be give yourself some grace. You also have the other level, the other side, which is never let yourself off the hook. So if I only have 50% to give today, I'm going to give 100% of that 50. So does that make sense? I may not, be my peak today, but I am not going to use that as a reason to not show up at all. And that's where I think people go wrong. I think people give themselves grace and let themselves off the hook. Not a believer in it.
Give yourself grace and don't think about anything else. That's when you let yourself off the hook, to your point.
Yeah, you'll
I
come
love
up
that
with
so
the
much.
reasons. Yeah,
I love
so
that so much.
yeah. Be hard
Awesome.
on yourself.
Haley,
But
yes.
just but the right amount of hard.
Totally, totally. And I love that you said even if you have 50%, just give it your all. 50%. It's okay. It's not 100, but you'll know at the end of the day that you did the thing. And I think that's where confidence comes from, to be honest.
And yes, I agree with you. And if I can just jump on that, if I only have 50% and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to give 100% of that 50, more often I find an additional 10%. More often I find an additional 10%. 2 days ago, I went for a bike ride and I'm just recovering from a cold. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do like the minimum, it's like a 7.5 mile climb. And
That's
I
the
was like, okay,
minimum? That's the minimum?
for me. So I set out and I'm like, I'm just going to make it to that. I'm just going to make it to that point. I'm not going. I'm going. But I'm going to give myself some grace and I'm not going to time myself and I'm just going to make it to that point. I actually went past it because in the moment I found that extra oomph. But if I had given myself some grace and just not gone because I wasn't feeling well, then I would have done nothing. But this way, I actually didn't let myself off the hook. And I discovered that I had more in me while I was doing it because in the moment, sometimes we find that boost.
Sure. That is, first of all, that's crazy. 7.5 miles. That's amazing. But wow,
How where you
that
live
is
where
an
I
amazing
live,
piece of
it's
wisdom.
nothing for us. It's
Yeah,
nothing.
I guess you're right. Yeah, yeah. Haley, any shout out, anything you want to give? We made it to the end. You did great. Anything you want to say to the audience, links, just anything.
I love connecting with people. So the best place is my website, drhaleyperlus.com, just DR. And when people opt in to like get my weekly newsletters on mental toughness moments, I get those messages. So there's a little place where you can write a note, send me a note and let me help you.
Awesome. Haley, thank you so much. And to my listeners, I'll see you guys next Tuesday.